Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. We found him. We found Pepe Escobar in an undisclosed location, and he's coming to us live right now. Thank you,
Thank you,
my dear friend. I want to talk to you about giving Europe the boot and your views of the Trump administration's national security strategy. You referred in a recent piece that you wrote, a brilliant and gifted piece like they all are, of NATO and the European Union being cast to the beggar's banquet. Are they both collapsing?
Yes, they are, Judge. And it's a parallel process. The European Union and the European Commission, of course, including all the scandals that would reach the top of the European Commission, but because it is ironclad protected, don't get there, and NATO as well. There are dissidents inside NATO, and there are especially dissidents inside the European Union. Well, I have been in Italy for almost 2 weeks now, and I am learning from my Italian interlocutors excellent, detailed reports about the presence of NATO in Italy, which, as you all know by now, is an EU colony and a NATO colony as well, compared to the wonders of Italian civilization. Where I am now, I am very near the Slovenian border. I was in Austria yesterday, which is 50 kilometers from here. And we are in a deep NATO stand. We have very, very important NATO bases all over and underground, invisible bases as well in this part of Italy. And Italy is militarized by NATO completely. And Trieste, I was in Trieste a few days ago. Trieste is about 3 hours from where I am. They are militarizing the port for NATO purposes. Trieste was always a free territory. They still call it free territory of Trieste. And NATO is militarizing the port to be...
What does militarizing the port mean? Fixing it up for big naval ships?
Yes, absolutely, Judge. Because Trieste, the port of Trieste should be the most important port in this region, uniting the Trimarium or Intermarium, which is Mediterranean, Baltic, and Black Sea, which in NATO's dreams, let's put it this way, should be 3 NATO lakes, 3 interconnected NATO lakes. And Trieste is essential. Trieste is being militarized to the hilt. And the locals, and we had a conference in Trieste last week, the locals are obviously, they are terrified, but what can we do about it?
What languages are spoken in Trieste?
It's a fascinating mix of Italian, dialetto friulano, dialect from Friuli, Slovenian, German. It's really a multinational and multicultural.
I don't even know if the people in Trieste consider themselves a part of Italy. I've been there myself. It's almost like San Marino. It's almost like a separate little tiny country surrounded by Italy.
You know that they miss Austria, Judge. I heard this from many people, including some people from Austria who came to our conference last week. They miss the Austro-Hungarian Empire. They miss Austria because Austria was hands off. Trieste was, they call it a free territory.
Wow.
And the people, young people, which is great. I met students from the University of Trieste who refer to and who write about the free territory of Trieste. And that's something that in NATO terms is unacceptable, of course.
But as you read the NSS, the National Security Strategy, and as I read it, I think we both are on the same page, as always. The President of the United States is giving the Europeans the boot, and he's giving NATO the boot. Who's going to pay for these bases that are all over Italy, above ground and below ground?
You hit the nail on the head, Judge. Who's going to pay for it? It's not going to be the United States. So it has to be Europe with euros that they don't have, or the money that they're trying to steal from Russia. These past few days, we reached peak surrealism in Europe, where Brussels is threatening to punish Brussels.
What?
Yes, let me rephrase it. Brussels, NATO, and European Union is threatening to punish Brussels, the government, the Belgian government, with the prime minister, because they don't accept that these Russian funds should be stolen by the European Union.
Because the prime minister has a basic understanding of property rights.
No, they don't. they don't understand property rights and don't understand international law, which is even worse. And this is what the Belgian prime minister was trying to explain to the European Commission this week. Look, if you do this, we need ironclad guarantees by the European Union and the European Commission that Belgium, my country, will not be the sole responsible for, in fact, the theft of the Russian assets, because we know that the Russians are going to sue us.
They can't give those guarantees unless they're going to pledge the Brandenburg Gate or St. Paul's Cathedral. I mean, it would have to be real estate that's of inestimable value.
Or the Eiffel Tower.
Right. I forgot about that. There you go. But do you foresee Brexit-like events when the UK left? Maybe starting with Hungary. Do you, if Orban is reelected, do you foresee this happening?
It's quite possible, Judge, within the next few years. Let's be realistic. Like, in the case of France, for instance, depending on the next French government, it could be a very plausible possibility. Other nations as well, not Germany, because the Germans nowadays, I would say they are in a pre-World War I and pre-World War II mindset all over again. They are trying to commit political suicide 3 times in less than 100 years. But in Italy, depending on the next Italian government, certainly. Can you imagine? I arrived in Florence, our city, the capital of the Renaissance, the most cultured city in history, arguably. And I saw in palazzi of the 15th, 16th century, banners saying, "We refute war," or more explicitly, "We refute wars of NATO."
Wow!
So this is already happening on a grassroots level in Italy. So it can expand. There have been protests in Genova. There have been protests in Rome. So But
Mrs. Meloni is like a puppy dog to President Trump and to NATO, isn't she?
Yes, she is, but Meloni does not design Italian foreign policy, Judge. The guy who does it is Ignazio La Russa, a very, very dangerous character. He is the guy who is implementing let's say, the globalist EU NATO agenda on Italy, and basically in terms of foreign policy, totally against China, totally against Russia, totally against Italy being a member of a partner of the Chinese New Silk Roads, and essentially he is against the majority of the Italian public opinion on a grassroots level. For instance, it was great these past few days because I had the chance to talk to average Italians everywhere, in Piemonte, in Toscana, in Umbria, here in Friuli, in the Veneto in my first day. Fantastic. And it's a consensus among average Italians. Yes, we are being subjugated by those idiots in Brussels. There's nothing we can do about it. So we have to start a grassroots movement. Everybody says the same thing.
Wow. In your travels around Europe, or around Italy, did you run into another character by the name of Giuseppe Dragoni?
Oh, my God. This was exactly when I arrived, Judge, because Dragoni, on the record, in an interview with the Financial Times, he said, "We are starting to consider the possibility of launching a preemptive attack against Russia."
Now,
so I went to my Italian interlocutor.
Dragoni is Admiral Dragoni, who happens to also be the head of the NATO Military Committee.
Exactly. They are very, very important posts in NATO held by Italians. Well, I cannot disclose details, but one of my top interlocutors here in Italy, former special forces, still Italian intelligence. He knows everybody everywhere, including in the US, immensely respected in the US, Pentagon levels, military levels. And he told me everything about these people. In background of the families, the Dragone family, very influential as well. Although Dragone himself is an asshole, but the family is very, very influential. Draghi has a villa in Umbria where we were a few days ago. Everybody is known by people in the know here in Italy.
When I come this summer, I want to meet this fellow, not Dragoni, the interlocutor whose name you don't want to give.
I will introduce him to you personally, Judge.
Wow.
Count on it.
Well, let's switch gears to another area with which, of course, you are intimately familiar by knowledge and study and birth. What does the United States want with Latin America?
I think it's very explicit in the Trump doctrine. Let's put it this way, Judge. It's the return of the Monroe doctrine on steroids. Basically, they were saying, we want our backyard back. The whole thing, whatever it takes. So this does not apply only to Venezuela and Colombia. Trump threatened Colombia 1 or 2 days ago, directly. It also concerns Mexico, and it concerns Brazil, the most important nation state in Latin America, the most powerful, larger economy, etc., member of BRICS, you name it. So the NSS is still, or even more, a document that goes directly against BRICS, against the Global South, against Latin America, and wants to split BRICS from the inside. And I think this is the key angle of the NSS. With all that flowery language of trying to normalize relations with Russia, China is not an existential threat anymore, but a competitor. No, they want to break up BRICS from the inside. And one of the best indicators is this notion that is being floated nowadays of the core five, C5. The Trump administration wants to end the G7 and go for the C5. Who are the C5?
Right. Who are they?
Who are the C5 members? United States, Japan, Russia, China, and India. What is this? It's breaking up BRICS from the inside. We have the US and the vassal colony Japan and 3 BRICS. So the US is trying to, I called it managed multipolarity.
Now, why would China, Russia, and India do that? BRICS is so successful. Why would they trust Trump?
Of course, Judge, and that's the key of the whole question. A matter of trust. And why would they dump BRICS for a very vague Trump idea based on literally nothing, just promises? Of course, but this is wishful thinking in terms of the NSS, and what this wishful thinking will face later on, which is the wall of reality. And the wall of reality is closer BRICS integration, like we saw these past few days.
Right.
When we had the spectacular visit of Shiva Putin to India, and of course, Wang Yi, Minister of Foreign Relations of China, coming to Moscow just before Putin left to India to meet with Lavrov and discuss strategic relationship Russia-China. So these interlocked strategic relationships, Russia-China, India, Russia, Russia-China especially, they won't be broken by any promises from the other side. The NSS is a narrative, Judge. It's a narrative.
I want to read to you a release from the Associated Press just 30 minutes ago. Okay. And tell me if you think this gives Quick Draw Pete any pause. Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed solidarity with the Venezuelan people on Thursday amid growing tensions between Venezuela's leader Nicolas Maduro and the Trump administration. The Kremlin said in a statement that Putin spoke with Maduro by phone and reaffirmed his support for the Venezuelan leader's policy of protecting national interests and sovereignty in the face of growing external pressure. The call comes a day after American forces seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, the latest tactic from U.S. President Donald Trump's administration to ramp up pressure on Maduro, who has been charged with narco-terrorism by the United States. What will Putin do to resist American aggression in Venezuela?
Well, this is already a message, Judge. Basically, Putin is telling the Trump administration, we got Venezuela's back. So think careful about what you're going to do next. When you compare with what the Ministry of Foreign Relations in Beijing said 2 or 3 days ago, which more or less totally aligned with what Putin said, totally condemned any foreign interference in Venezuelan sovereignty. So this is reality. We have realpolitik actors, Russia and China, trying to counteract narratives coming from the US. Let me see if I find a quote here, Judge, from the NSS, which I selected, which I think is very important in terms of defining their wishful thinking. Yes, it's here. Okay, I'm quoting now. We want a hemisphere, meaning Latin America, that remains free of hostile foreign incursion or ownership of key assets, meaning essentially Chinese and Russian investments in all, and they mean all over Latin America, not only Venezuela, Colombia, etc. And that supports critical supply chains. This means the supply chains that favor the United States. And we want to ensure our continued access to key strategic locations, meaning we want the whole backyard for us in diplomatic language. Like, just to finish the quote, in other words, their words, we will assert and enforce a Trump corollary to the Monroe doctrine. And that's the Trump administration saying, this is the Monroe Doctrine 2.0 on steroids. We want the whole backyard, and nobody is allowed to come here, and we rule, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happens if the United States attacks? Has Russia sold or installed air defenses?
Oh my God! This is a big, because yes, they have Russian missile air defense. And if Russian advisors are hit, then we enter unknown territory, of course. So Putin is being very patient, very careful, sending messages that should be understood by anybody that understands how diplomacy works. We wonder if the people around Trump will pay attention. We don't. This possible war, invasion, shock and awe, remixed, whatever, against Venezuela may not be totally Trump's project. We all know who is the main interested party in this project, right?
Rubio.
Yes, of course. And wow. Rubio is about power. Rubio is about power and consolidating the power that he has with very powerful Cuban exile and Venezuelan exile donors. Rubio is ahead. Yeah.
The United States seized the largest oil tanker, according to Trump, the largest oil tanker in the world. Colonel Wilkerson says it holds 1 billion gallons of oil. I have
wow.
I saw a picture of it. It doesn't look like a normal oil tanker. It looks like 2 or 3 oil tankers connected. I have characterized this seizure as an act of piracy.
It is an act of piracy, legally. You know better than anybody. Yes, right. Yes, but how Venezuela can react to that?
I really don't know. I mean, suppose this was a Chinese or a Russian tanker. I don't think the U.S. would have seized it.
No,
And
definitely
if
not.
it had been destined for a Chinese port, it was destined for Iran, according to the American propagandists. If it had been destined for a Chinese port, I don't think the U.S. would have seized it.
Definitely not. Definitely not. And it's still very, very murky. Who owns the whole thing?
What are they going to do with it? What are they going to do with 1 billion gallons of oil?
Sail it to America?
I mean, it's piracy, it's classic piracy. The Attorney General says she got a warrant from a federal judge. A federal judge doesn't have jurisdiction over a foreign ship in the middle of the ocean, nor could a federal judge authorize such a seizure.
But this falls straight into the new characterization of the NSS. No?
Yes.
It's our backyard and we do what we want.
We are showing, these are Coast Guard.
Coast Guards, right.
Yeah, rappelling from a helicopter with their automatic weapons, now running to where they believe the captain of the ship would be, pointing automatic weapons at them. They're commencing combat. There was nobody firing at them. So they attacked a civilian boat with military gear, military equipment, and guns, not blazing, but guns pointing. I don't think anybody was actually shot.
Well, that sets a new, very dangerous narrative, Judge.
It does.
Like we can do it and we can get away with it.
I would like to know what your unnamed interlocutor thinks about that.
I'm going to talk to him between today and tomorrow. Tomorrow we're heading to Rome. I want to talk to him about this today. He's going to the U.S. soon, Judge. In fact, he was. Do you know that he got an invitation, a formal invitation from the Pentagon? In fact, you have to be here in the next few days because you need to teach some people. Blah 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 blah. He's also an instructor, as a former special forces. He's one of the top instructors in Europe. So
wow. One of these days we'll meet. Pepe, thank you very much, my dear friend. I know it's late at night. I don't know if you've had your dinner yet. I know you Italians eat very late, but thank you very much, my dear friend. All the best.
Well, it's strikes in Italy, so I spent the day trying to find a train to get to Rome.
Wow. I hope you get there. And I hope we can see you 1 or 2 more times before Buona Natale.
Definitely. I'll be in southern Italy next week, Judge. Definitely, yes.
Great. Chris will find you. Thank you, Pepe. All the best.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Judge. Thank you so much.
Sure. Coming up at 4 o'clock on all of this, mainly on the piracy and the murders on the high seas. Scott Ritter, Judge Napolitano for Judging for You.